Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and wow, we have a big episode for you today. A lot is happening in the secondary market. Last week it was so slow. This week, not so much. A lot of cards are moving up in value. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of factors. It is March of the Machine Pro Tour weekend. That's one big factor. We just had a set come out not too long ago, too. Remember March of the Machine? Well, they also previewed March of the Machine, the Aftermath this week, and there's been a lot of other preview cards, too. Quickly, before we unpack it all, though, just a couple of things. First, I want to say thank you to 6 viewers who gave super thanks tips over the course of last week. Alpal8319, The Thib, TN Combat Medic, Todd Branch, Venom, and Whip. Thank you to all 6 of you for your super thanks tips. It really helps the channel a lot, means a lot to me. Couldn't do this without viewers like yourself. I appreciate it so much. And secondly, as always, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use the Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pre-order March of the Machine, the Aftermath products there. You can also now pre-order the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth products too, but they also have a whole lot of other things on their website. Remember, if your order's over $100 or consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use the Heroes promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated, so thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We will begin with the Standard Legal Spotlight. This is where we look at the Standard Legal cards moving the most this week, and the Pro Tour is in progress as we speak. Over the course of the weekend, I think players are going to get a better idea for the meta. Next week, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of standard cards spiking, but there's some stuff to talk about already. Fairy Mastermind. This is up $2.28 to $12. Early on, this card is seeing play in a number of formats. I've seen some trying this in Standard, Legacy, Vintage. In Modern, it's starting to show up in generic Ragavan. We'll have to see if any of that sticks, but Pioneer and Commander are the formats really moving the price this week. Fairy Mastermind is part of the Pioneer Rogues build, and that deck has been performing very well, gaining momentum. We're going to talk about it a few times throughout the video today. And beyond that, when it comes to Commander, the card is already in a lot of builds old and new, including Zimone and Dina, as well as Errant and Giada for March of the Machine. I have also seen some pick this up as an upgrade to the March of the Machine Cavalry Charge Commander deck, or in other cases put it in fresh builds, run a card from there, a Lenda and a Zor. That may have brought a little more attention to the card as well. Next we have Path, the Peril from Innistrad Double Feature. This is up $2.37 this week to $5.68. The card has been showing up in a number of new standard decks like Mono Black Reanimator and Dimir Mill Control. We will have to see how the meta unfolds this weekend after the Pro Tour, but this is a card to watch right now. In Pioneer, sometimes you see this in Hidden String sideboards. In Modern, it's in Rakdos Scam and Grixis midrange sideboards. And it does get a tad bit of Commander play too, but this time that is not the format that's the key driver. Next we have Sheoldred / The True Scriptures. This is up $2.58 to $20.59. I have seen this show up in Pioneer Rogue sideboards at times. We'll have to see if that catches on as the deck develops in the future. Commander is really what's pushing the price of the card this week. It is already a popular commander and part of the 99 of a number of builds old and new, including Atraxa Praetor's Voice and Omnith Locus of All. That is the new Omnith from March of the Machine. I have also seen many using this to upgrade another one of the new commander decks, Growing Threat. And it's in fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Burmaz Blight of Oreskos. Additionally, this was mentioned on the Command Zone podcast this week as a card you might want to play with Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. And the last card in this section is another Sheoldred, Sheoldred the Apocalypse. This goes up $3.31 to $77.49. So this card sure is seeing a ton of play in this new standard meta. If you've been watching the Pro Tour, it is all over the place this weekend. It is in Rakdos, Esper, Grixis, as well as 5-color midrange and many other builds. But it's also in other formats. In Pioneer, this is in Rakdos midrange. It's also in the Rogues build we discussed a moment ago, and several other decks there. In Modern, it's showing up in Yawgmoth sideboards. Legacy, it's in Doomsday and Mono Black Pox boards. You can find it in Vintage Doomsday boards sometimes as well. And yeah, it's a big commander card too. It has been a popular commander and in the 99 of a lot of builds there. Now it's even seeing more play thanks to March of the Machine. It's a good upgrade to Growing Threat and Cavalry Charge, plus it's in new builds around Burmaz Blight of Oreskos from Growing Threat and a Lenda and Azor from Cavalry Charge. You also see this in commander decks around several cards from the main set. Zamon and Dina, as well as Rona Herald of Invasion / Rona Talarian Obliterator. Plus, this was also mentioned in that episode of the Command Zone podcast as a card you might want to play with Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. And that takes us to the Pioneer Legal Spotlight. Let's see which Pioneer Legal cards are moving up the most this week. Polyraptor up $2.30 to $24.01. This is found in some Commander builds, including Gishath's Son's Avatar, and those builds got a push from March of the Machine in the form of new dinosaur support. Cards like Gulta and Maverin, as well as Atali Primal Conqueror / Atali Primal Sickness. That is a popular card. You're going to hear that name a lot today. Remember, though, we're also going to be returning to Ixalan later this year in the standard set called the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, so there's going to be more dinosaur support in the future, too. Next is Thoughtseize from Lorwyn, up $2.30 to $25.05. This original copy moving up this week, you know it sees a ton of play in Pioneer. It's in big decks like Rakdos Midrange and Abzan Greasefang, also in that Rogues build again, and much more. In Modern, it's in Rakdos Scam, Yawgmoth, and much more there, including a Jund Creativity build that runs a new card from March of the Machine, Ren and Realmbreaker. The deck is gaining momentum. In fact, Andrea Mengucci played it on stream this week, and that could have brought some more attention to it. In Legacy, you see Thoughtseize and Reanimator, Doomsday, and more, and it gets a little commander play in various builds. Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, the original copy from Planar Chaos, is up $2.33 this week to $52.77. In Pioneer, it's in Rakdos Midrange, also that Rogues deck, and more. Modern, you see this in Mono Black Coffers. Legacy, it's in Golgari Depths and Mono Black Pox. And it's a highly played commander card in lots of builds, including some new ones around cards from March of the Machine. Some of those builds are real popular too, like Thalia and the Gitrog Monster, Omnithocus of All, Zamon and Dina, Yargle and Multani. Plus, this is often used as an upgrade to Growing Threat, and it's in new builds around Brumaz, Blight of Oreskos. The list copy of Brazen Borrower. It's been a while, but this is up $2.58 this week to $25.99. Another card that is part of that Pioneer Rogues deck. It's also in Mono Blue Spirits there and more. Modern, you see this in Crushing Footfalls, Living End, and many times Murktide Regent. Legacy, it's in Izzet Delver, 8-cast, and much more. And it is getting more commander play now in a couple builds around March of the Machine cards. Errant and Giada, as well as Inga and Esika. Cavalier of Gales, up $2.74 this week to $6. This is a knight. It's getting more commander play now as an upgrade to Cavalry Charge, which is a knight tribal build. Plus, this is showing up in new builds around the front-facing commander from there, Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. To a lesser degree, though, I'm also seeing this in a couple commander builds around cards from the March of the Machine main set, Omnithocus of All, as well as Hidetsugu and Kairi. Cavalier of Night from Core Set 2020. This is also moving up $2.74. This one's landing at $12.20. Previously, this card saw a little commander play, but you guessed it, it's another card seeing more play now because of March of the Machine, another good upgrade to Cavalry Charge, and it's in new builds around Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. Mox Amber, this is the retro frame artifact copy from the Brothers War, goes up $5.18 to $38.60. And you might remember from last week that this card's been pretty hot. Todd Anderson has been showcasing a Pioneer combo deck using Retraction Helix, Mox Amber, and a new card from March of the Machine, Rona Herald of Invasion / Rona Talarian Obliterator. But there's also now a Jeskai Ascendancy Rona deck running 4 copies of this too. Beyond that, this is in Modern Grinding Station, and it is seeing increased commander play now because of March of the Machine. This is in Rona commander builds too, and some are using this to upgrade the new Tinker Time commander deck, while others are adding it to fresh builds around a card from there, Rashmi and Ragavan. Pioneer, though, is really the key driver this week. And the last card in this section is Indomitable Creativity at $5.80 to $37.26. Of course, you see this in Pioneer, Izzet, Temur, and 5 color variations of Indomitable Creativity. Modern Creativity has also become a very popular and successful deck. And like we mentioned earlier, now there is a Jund deck running Ren and Realmbreaker that's using this, and that's gaining momentum. Plus, this does get a little commander play, but really Modern's the key driver this time. Speaking of Modern, time to look at which Modern legal cards are moving up the most this week. First, we have Sword of Light and Shadow from Double Masters, up $2 to $24.99. So this is rebounding from a drop last week. It is seeing more commander play and builds around a couple March of the Machine cards though. Thalia and the Gitrog Monster, as well as Yargle and Multani. Also, this is one of 3 swords on the list today. March of the Machine did finish up this cycle, which may have some players collecting and thinking about the swords in general. In fact, they discussed the Sword of Once and Future on the Command Zone podcast this week and showed all 10 cards in the cycle. Again, might have brought some attention to them. The first sliver from Modern Horizons up $2.07 to $25.52. This is a popular sliver commander, and in the 99 of other sliver decks there too. Several slivers have been reprinted as the surprise cards that come with secret layers over the last few drops, including the most recent one, which has now been getting into players' hands. That alone might bring some attention back to the tribe, but there's a lot more going on here. Remember, one of the Commander Masters commander decks is called Sliver Swarm, and yesterday they previewed the front-facing commander for the deck. Let's take a look. It is Sliver Grave Mother. I gotta admit, it looks pretty sweet, and assuming the first sliver is not reprinted, it could jump more as the product gets closer. Good old War Elemental back again, up $2.09 to $13.99. This card did get a push in Commander not too long ago by a card from Phyrexia All Will Be One called All Will Be One, but now there's interest in this as an upgrade to the March of the Machine Call for Backup Commander deck. And I am also seeing this in fresh builds around a card from there, Shalai and Halar. Much like All Will Be One, War Elemental combos directly with Shalai and Halar, but that card can be your commander, which will let you pull the combo off with increased consistency. Here's our second sword of the day, Sword of Fire and Ice from Double Masters, up $2.10 this week to $53.50. This is in Modern Death in Texas, Thopter Combo, and Jeskai Stoneblade. In Legacy, you see this in Mono White Hammer Time. It's also a solid commander card in a number of builds, and now some are using it to upgrade Cavalry Charge, and others are putting it in new builds around Sidar, Jabari of Zhalfir from there. Next we have the archenemy copy of Lightning Greaves, up $2.34 this week to $11.99. Now this copy is a little dry online this week, but honestly, I mean, most copies of this card fall between $10 and $11, so this isn't too far off. Maybe it's a little inflated right now. Considering the amount of printings this has seen, that does still seem expensive. But you have to consider that this is a commander staple found in tons of decks in the format, including some new ones. It is another good upgrade to Cavalry Charge and Tinker Time, plus it's in fresh builds around Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir from Cavalry Charge, and Rashmi and Ragavan from Tinker Time. It is also in decks around another March of the Machine Eternal card, Goro, and Satoru, plus this is in builds around cards from the main set too, again including popular ones like Thalia and the Gitrog Monster, as well as Omnith Locus of All. Additionally, this also appears at times in Legacy Painter. Sword of Truth and Justice from Modern Horizons, our third sword today, is up $2.97 this week to $43.95. You see this in Atraxa Praetor's Voice commander decks, as well as many other builds. But here's another card that is a good upgrade to a couple of the March of the Machine commander decks, Growing Threat and Call for Backup. Plus it is showing up in fresh builds around Burma's Blight of Oreskos from Growing Threat, and Shalai and Halar from Call for Backup. And our last card in this section today is Gemstone Caverns, the Time Spiral Remastered copy, up $2.37 to $57.02. The copy from the list is up $4.07 to $66.06, and the Time Spiral copy is up $9.35 to $62.94. I don't know what to tell you, other than this card sees more and more modern play all the time. It is in the popular Crashing Footfalls build, and you see it in Hardened Scales and many other decks in the format. Legacy, it's even in Temur Cascade. You see this at times in Vintage Mono White Initiative sideboards too, and it's in a variety of commander decks. And that takes us to my favorite part of the video, the Eternal Spotlight. This is our salute to all Eternal formats, but mostly commander. Now, all the cards in this section are not going to be legal, obviously, in all Eternal formats, but they're not legal in Standard, Pioneer, or Modern. Benny Brack's Zoologist, up $2.01 to $21.11. This is one of the Streets of New Capenna Eternal cards. It is getting an increased amount of commander play now due to, you guessed it, March of the Machine. It is a good upgrade to the Divine Convocation commander deck, and it's in fresh builds around a couple of cards from there. Casela the Broken Halo, as well as Saint Traft and Rem Carolus. It is also in commander builds around a card from the main set, Elish Norn / the Argent Fetchings. But additionally, this was mentioned on the Command Zone podcast this week as a card you might want to play with one of the March of the Machine, the Aftermath cards. Let's take a look at it. Rocco Street Chef. Next we have Metal Worker. This is up $2.01 this week to $145.05. This is rebounding after some recent losses. You do see this in a variety of commander builds, but this also gets pre-modern play, and that format has been having a bigger impact on card prices recently. Natural Order, the copy from Visions, goes up $2.02 this week to $26.15. This is also moving up after a recent dip. In Legacy, you find this in Elves and 5-color Zenith. It is also in lots of different commander builds, including a new one, Thalia and the Gitrog Monster. Kindred Dominance up 217 to 3882. Solid commander card for tribal builds running black. It is now getting picked up to upgrade Cavalry Charge and Growing Threat, and it's in fresh builds around Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir from Cavalry Charge and Bramaz Blade of Oreskos from Growing Threat. Small percentage increase here, but City of Traders up $222 to $349. This too is rebounding after some recent losses though. It gets a lot of legacy play though in several decks, including the Sneak and Show builds that have been pushed recently by the inclusion of a Drechsler Grand Unifier. Other highly played decks in Legacy where you see this include Painter and Mono Red Prison. Additionally, this is in a variety of commander decks, and it does get some pre-modern play too. Savannah from Revised up 222 to 349.50. Again, real small percentage increase here, but I think it's noteworthy that this is relatively steady. The Revised dual lands in general have been very turbulent since the 30th anniversary edition announcement. That is still true this week though too. In fact, this is the first of many Revised dual lands you're going to see moving up today. As far as gameplay goes, of course, they're all highly played in the formats where they're legal. Battle Angels of Tyre up 225 to 31.88, and this has been a solid commander card in a variety of decks. Since it is an angel, you do see it in the popular Giada Font of Hope builds, but it is also a knight. And of course that means it's a good upgrade to Cavalry Charge, and it's in fresh deck lists around Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. To a lesser degree, you see this in commander builds around a card from the main set too though, Errant and Giada. Necropotence. Now this is the copy from Deck Masters, Garfield vs. Finkel. This one only comes in foil. It goes up 231 this week to 88.98. Necropotence was recently reprinted in the Secret Lair 30th Anniversary Countdown Kit, but this copy's still rebounding after some recent losses. At one point, this was up to around $100. When it comes to gameplay, this is in Vintage Doomsday, plus it gets a lot of commander play in a variety of builds like Carrick, Son of Yawgmoth, for example. Preacher, another card that lost a lot of value over the last couple of years. This one is moving up a little this week, up to $32 to $60.73. Gets a tad bit of commander play, but that's about all. Mox Opal, the Double Masters copy, up $234 this week to $84.99. The Scars of Mirrodin copy goes up $250 to $89.99. So this is in Legacy 8 cast, Painter, and more. Vintage, you see it in Paradoxical Outcome. It is a very popular commander card too in several builds. Now, many are getting it to upgrade Tinker Time, and it's in fresh builds around Rashmi and Ragavan too. Survival of the Fittest from Exodus up $254 to $239.38. This is also rebounding after some recent losses. It is found in several different commander builds, and it is getting more play now in builds around Atali Primal Conquer / Atali Primal Cygnus, as well as Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Beyond that, it's inexpensive but good upgrade to the Call for Backup commander deck, and it's in some fresh builds around Shalai and Halar from there. And if that's not enough, it also gets a good amount of pre-modern play. Keeper of Secrets. This is up $258 this week to $10. This is from the Warhammer 40k deck called the Ruinous Powers, and it has been in a number of different commander decks ever since it came out, including Prosper Tomebound. But I have seen this now in a lot of early deck lists around Edgin Larcenist Lutenist. That's a card from the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves Secret Lair. And it is in commander builds around a couple March of the Machine cards too, Atali Primal Conquer / Atali Primal Cygnus, and Quintorius Loremaster. Beyond that, it was mentioned in a Nitpicking Nerds video this week as a card you might want to play in a commander build around Feldhorn Dreadwolf Herald. Next is Biophagus, up $263 this week to $10.81. This is from the Tyrannid Swarm Warhammer 40k commander deck. This also has seen a good amount of play in Commander since it came out, but now it's seeing more as an upgrade to Call for Backup. And it is in fresh builds around a couple cards from there, Shalai and Halar, as well as Bright Palm Soul Awakener. By the way, the Surge Foil copy of this is jumping as well this week. It is up $11.18 to $39.90. Sarah's Sanctum up $273 to $274.84. Another card rebounding after losing some value, and another card that does get pre-modern play. You do see this in Legacy Enchantress, and many times it is in enchantment-heavy commander builds, like Sithis Harvest Hand, for example. Think about the future, though, with this card. I do think it's going to see play around a new legendary creature coming in Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, Tom Bombadil. Tom is a legendary creature with 5-color color identity that cares about sagas. And beyond that, Commander Masters has an Abzan commander deck called Enduring Enchantments. This might be a good upgrade there in the future. In fact, they just revealed the front-facing commander from that deck too. Let's take a look. Anixia, Hand of Erebos. Here's another revised dual land. It is Tropical Island, up $279 this week to $585.97. Metamorphose up 294 to 399. Now this one isn't uncommon, but it is also an older card yet to be reprinted. It has seen a Tablet Commander play, but the reason it's hot now is because it's found in many of the Forgetful Fish decks. You might remember that the casual format Forgetful Fish was thrust into the spotlight a few weeks ago when Ristic Studies did a video talking about the history and how to play the format. That encouraged many to build a copy of a Forgetful Fish shared deck to play with friends casually, and it led to a lot of cards drying up and spiking. We saw Dan, Crystal Spray, Diminishing Returns all jump. Now you can add Metamorphose to the list. Next we have Nell Feshny, up 337 this week to 499. This is seeing more Commander play around a variety of new cards. Edgin Larson as Lutenist, as well as March of the Machine cards, including Atali Primal Conqueror / Atali Primal Sickness, and to a lesser degree, Quintorius Loremaster. Beyond that, it's another good upgrade to Tinker Time and in fresh builds around Rashmi and Ragavan, but additionally, this was also mentioned on a Nitpicking Nerds video as a card you might want to play in Commander with Feldorn Dreadwolf Herald. Volcanic Island from Revised, up 339 this week to 768.96. Rishad Import from Mercadian Masks, up 349 this week to $40.09. This is another card rebounding after losing a fair amount of value. Legacy It's in Death and Taxes, Mono White Stoneblade, and many times lands. It also sees a Tablet Commander play in various builds, plus it's another card that you do see in pre-modern. Plateau from Revised, up 352 to $350. Dockside Extortionist, the Double Masters 2022 copy is up $4.15 to $66.52. You know it's a huge Commander card in many builds. Basically, if you're playing red in Commander, you probably want a copy of this. And yes, it's in a lot of popular new builds there too. Many are getting this to upgrade Tinker Time or to put it in fresh builds around Rashmi and Ragavan. This is also in decks around the March of the Machine Eternal cards Slimefoot and Squee, and in a number of builds around cards from the main set too, like Atali Primal Conqueror / Atali Primal Sickness, and Urbrask / The Great Work. Next we have Sliver Queen at $4.20 to $340.10. This reserve list legendary Sliver dipped last week. It's back up this week. It is a good Sliver Commander and in the 99 of Sliver builds there too. Of course this is hot right now because of that upcoming Commander Masters Commander deck with Sliver Grave Mother that we saw a few moments ago. And like I said earlier, the surprise Sliver reprints have been coming with the Secret Layers. That has had people thinking about Slivers a lot more recently too. Apex Altasaur, this is up $4.61 this week to $17.05. This is always seen Commander play. Typically you see it in Gishath's Sun's Avatar builds, and those decks have been popular recently due to the push they got from some dinosaur support in March of the Machine. And I'm sure we're going to get more dinosaur support later this year in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Additionally, this is in Commander builds around one of the Eternal cards from March of the Machine, Slimefoot and Squee, and it's in builds around cards from the main set there too. You guessed it, Atali Primal Conqueror / Atali Primal Sickness, and Vorinclex / The Grand Evolution. Mana Crypt, the Double Masters copy of $266 to $199. The Eternal Masters copy goes up $547 to $200. Remember though, Wizards just did sell more Mystery Booster Convention Edition boxes in the Festival in a Box Minneapolis 2023 Secret Lair, so more copies of Mana Crypt are getting into circulation. In fact, these copies were going down last week, but as you can see, they're jumping back up this week. The card's in a lot of vintage builds, including Esper Tinker and Paradoxical Outcome, for example, and it is a big Commander card in many different decks there, including a popular new one, Atali Primal Conqueror / Atali Primal Sickness. It is also another good upgrade to Tinker Time, and I have seen some put this in fresh builds around Rashmi and Ragavan. Elandra, Sky Dreamer, up $7.23 this week to $20.57. This has been a solid Commander card, used both as a Commander and in the 99 of builds, but now it is seeing more play there thanks to March of the Machine. You see this in Zimone and Dina decks, and to a lesser degree, Inga and Asika, as well as Rona Herald of Invasion / Rona Talarian Obliterator. Taiga from Revised goes up $7.34 this week to $401.39. Intuition from Tempest up $7.55 to $179.69. This is in the updated Legacy Omnitel builds with the Drechsler Grand Unifier. It is also appearing in a variety of Commander decks, including one from the March of the Machine main set, Boborigamos and Fibblethip. Beyond that, it might be an expensive upgrade, but I do see people using it to upgrade Tinker Time or putting it in new builds around Rashmi and Ragavan. It too is another card that sees pre-modern play, and it was number 11 this week on a Nitpicking Nerds Top 100 Blue Commander Cards of All Time video. And in case you were wondering, the Judge foil's been hot recently too. Let's check in on it. This week it's up $46.99 to $914.99. Norn Squire Master. This is seeing quite a jump of $764 this week to $1115. This is from the Phyrexia All-Be-One Corrupting Influence Commander deck. And it is another card that's been seeing Commander play ever since it came out. Immediately it was slotted into a Drechsler Praetor's Voice, for example. But now March of the Machine is causing this to get even more play in the format. This is a great upgrade to Growing Threat, and in fresh builds around Brahma's Blight of Oreskos. And I'm also seeing this in Commander builds around a card from the main set, Elesh Norn / the Argent Etchings. Mox Diamond from Stronghold up $766 this week to $629.99. This is in Legacy Lands, Naiad Depths. It also shows up in a variety of Commander decks, including a new one, Etali Primal Conqueror / Etali Primal Sickness. And it too is another card that gets some pre-modern play. By the way, the From the Vault Relics copy is even more expensive. Let's take a look. It is up $12.15 this week to $840. Wheel of Fortune from Revised up $15.41 this week to $339.99. Like the Revised Dual Lands, this card has seen a lot of ups and downs ever since Magic 30th Anniversary was announced. In fact, it dipped a lot last week, but as you can see, it is rebounding this week. Solid Commander card in a variety of builds, including some new ones like Urabrask / The Great Work and Etali Primal Conqueror / Etali Primal Sickness. But this was also mentioned on the Command Zone podcast this week as a card you may want to play with one of the upcoming cards from March of the Machine, The Aftermath. Let's take a look at it. It is Arnie Metal Brow. Next is another revised dual land. It is Tundra up $21.37 to $515.08. And finally, our last card today is Underground Sea from Revised. This dropped a lot last week, jumping back up this week. It's up $29.29 to $826.49. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. I told you it was going to be a long one with a lot to talk about. If you stuck with me to the end, hey, thanks for being here. I appreciate that. Until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.